I love bringing people unconventional methods of healing, well, unconventional to society's measures of healing practices, as I believe that a lot of us in the world today are carrying dense energies through unprocessed emotions. And simply because in our society, we don't have or readily talk about tools in education that can help us process our emotions and help us understand how to transmute energy surrounding difficult experiences. So this podcast brings on a lot of guests that have alternate healing methods, such as my guest today, Donna Mulvany, who is a quantum healing practitioner. Now, quantum healing is essentially just a state of consciousness that one is able to be guided into, often through a voice or through sound, and the human then is able to traverse the subconscious areas where avoidance of difficult experiences often store unprocessed emotions. So to be able to do this from the comfort of your home and with a guided practitioner is everything that I am trying to offer people, because in terms of pricing for what this costs, it's not that much in terms of a monetary fee, but the results are absolutely priceless. To be able to integrate and process energies that you have stored and carried around for quite some time, it's liberating beyond any measurement or any cost of money. That's why I do this. I do this because I had a very difficult life, 23 years of trauma or traumatic events that took place due to a drug addiction. I separated from myself because I was separated from love of myself. And therefore, I did not have the tools and education of how to navigate that. So I continued to avoid that for quite some time until I learned how to connect back to myself and how to connect back to love. And one of the tools that I use is quantum healing. And it's remarkable, and there's no harm in it whatsoever. The effects of what takes place within a quantum healing session is just an understanding of self. So in this episode, we're going to talk about what quantum healing is, some of the integration processes that I used in my life to understand accountability, to understand jealousy, to understand control, to understand all different types of imbalances, emotional imbalances that we carry in this life, how to identify them and how to recognize them so you can communicate about them and change them. Now that's a big deal, to create a new belief system out of something that has become a habit and behavior for you that is not beneficial to your growth in this life. So we're going to give you tools, we're going to give you education, and Donna brings a wealth of knowledge with what she has given her life for to help people heal and transmute energies and understand themselves from a different perspective. That's what we're trying to help you do here, is understand yourself as being a very powerful human being that is just learning how to remember what they're capable of. So I hope you enjoy this episode as much as I did having it. Much love for being here and much love for your support. And please check out the other episodes if this one aligns for you. So much love. Oh my Lord, I've got Elon Musk's satellite, it's the Starlink because of where we live. And it's great until you have to try and communicate with someone about its capabilities, because the man was pretty genius. He just allowed all of his customer service to be done through email. So there's really no human interaction other than email. And that's like they can choose when they want to respond or like even diagnosing it. It's like we're just going back and forth over something that we could just handle in one phone call, So it's...
Yes.
It's been challenging, to say the least, but I have been thinking about this podcast with you for days.
So, awesome!
Yeah, we're gonna work with the internet here and see if it'll allow. But yeah, what you do and the conversation that we had leading up to doing the actual episode was enough for me to be beyond intrigued with what you're doing, and I think that when we're, looking for, I don't want to say unconventional ways of healing, but alternate ways of discovering results about ourselves that is not found within pharmaceutical companies. Because essentially, like, that's what the healthcare system is you're just going to go there and get drugs. So, I mean, let's call that for what it is. It's not a wellness program. it's a program that controls using pharmaceuticals. But things like what you're doing, and I recently did a healing session similar to that of a quantum healing session. It I don't want to say it cures, but it allows you to process experiences where energy could be stored within you on a subconscious level, that you are healed in the present moment, and you take that with you everywhere. So I think that that's incredible.
Definitely. It really is incredible, and I love doing it. And I'm so glad that I got into this quantum work, because it really does help people lift and shift things that they're not even aware they have inside themselves. And that's the power of and the beauty of it, is that they can have happier lives, feel lighter and have more freedom, feel more in control of their life and their destiny, really.
So, like, in your words, what would you describe, how would you describe to someone who, like, is listening to this podcast, and this podcast, this is how we talk. People navigate here to, this is how I kind of promote it, is a tool, a resource to find other individuals who might have answers to help unlock doors they have within them. So, how would you describe what you do?
The easiest way that I would describe it is that basically everything is energy, but there's so much that we can't see. So what we're really doing is we're tapping into that person's field, and they're feeling into where these emotions or issues sit in their body. So if they hold sadness, they might say, I hold that in my heart, or I can also feel it in my stomach. So it's getting the person to really tap into our body, because unless we do yoga or qigong or things like that, or are very grounded and work outside all of the time, a lot of us aren't really in tune with our body.
Right.
So we will go and we'll get the person to think about how they behave when they're in that state, like when they're sad or angry or feeling guilt. And then we'll get them to identify where it is in their body. And then I will work through with that individual, and they will actually, it sounds bizarre, but they will actually talk to their body, because we don't generally talk to our body, and it's screaming out for our attention.
Right.
And that's when it turns into pain, or that disease over a period of time actually, ends up being some sort of disease in our body. So we literally lift that out of the body, that energy, and then the person just decides whether they're ready to 100% let go of that, which once we've lifted it out of the body, everybody says, yes, I'm 100% ready now.
Right.
and,
Right.
and then we go and create new opportunities and new timelines, so that it's realistically, we've healed whatever that is, because it's been released now.
Right.
And then the person automatically feels lighter, and then they just feel happier within themselves, and like they have better direction and know where they want to go. Like, for example, I had a young girl that reached out to me the other day that was for somebody, and she'd never experienced anything like that, and she just was suffering severe anxiety, and the way that she saw it was with all of the light coming in from the sun. She could feel that, but she was unable to integrate that energy. And now she's doing things like a couple of days later that she hasn't done in months.
Right. So I think it would be safe to say that you facilitate a space for an individual to become aware of the language the emotional body is trying to communicate to them through their unprocessed emotions, which is energy in motion, which may be stored inside of the body and is breaking down the body.
Definitely. Yes.
That, and I think that within itself, bringing an awareness to, emotions and energy, and the fact that, like you say, we are all energy. I mean, this conversation is not something we're being taught in school, because if we understood the ability to process emotions, then we would transmute the energy and we would be living in the present moment. But by having communication about emotions be taboo anywhere in the world, I mean, most families are not talking about feelings, and they're certainly not teaching, or even if they are teaching it to the kids, it comes in this, like, really, from what I've seen, it's not to the core of things, where we're really able to make mistakes and then learn from them, and have a space where that vulnerability is actually our teacher. It just seems to be so strange these days. So I think that something that is so normal is so foreign just because of the mispractice of not being able to connect to that ability to process.
100%. And I think, look, in the past, emotions were something that people were told that they were not allowed to feel a certain way, or they shouldn't be sad, or why are you crying? Like, there was a lot of harshness around our emotions, rather than, like you said, it's energy in motion, and an emotion is designed to be felt and released. But most of us don't know how to do that. We are constantly spending our whole lives looking outside of ourselves for everything and not connecting with ourselves. But once we connect with ourselves, then that is the real game changer, definitely.
And I mean, the reward for connecting with self is alleviating yourself from having to put all of the energy into creating an identity that is not of your true authentic self. I mean, the world has so many people pretending, and they're so tired all the time because it takes so much energy to sell people on the fact that everything's okay.
Exactly. And people just get used to, when we go through difficult things, particularly in our childhood, we look for ways to have our needs met. So to be seen, to be heard, to be felt, to feel loved. And we create ways to do that. And then we keep following that pattern and that program most of our lives, unless we become aware of it. And once we become aware of it, that's when we can truly change it. So sometimes when I'm talking to people, that might be a 60-year-old person, and that feeling or that angst within them has been sitting there since they were 5 years old, and they weren't even aware that it was
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, the patterns and behaviors that we create. I like an example for me is like control. Control was a reactive emotion that would come from me when individuals would try to control me. And rather than be reactive within it, I actually sat with it one day and I was like, hey, wait a minute, like why does control, anyone trying to control me or authoritarians, have such a reactive state within myself? And I followed that back because I knew it had to come from somewhere. It was a belief system that I needed to be in control, was what it was, as soon as someone was trying to take away my freedom, supposedly. But I
Yes.
followed it back, and here my father, he he witnessed his father, his parenting methods, which were that of control. Keep everything safe. If I control everything, everything's safe, from some unknown fear. But my dad subconsciously picks up this parenting habit and then lays this on myself. So here in my world, anytime that someone's trying to control me or comes from this authoritarian perspective, I feel like something's being taken away from me, from what my father, the tools he didn't have. So I was able to look at that situation and say, whoa, 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 okay, wait a minute. I created this belief system from a child. And that belief system of anyone challenging my authority or control over me would have me become reactive within an emotional, I would become unstable within my emotions. And I thought that, so once I processed that emotion and I looked at that belief system, why it was created, I let it go because I knew it didn't serve any function for me in the present moment. But I was operating from that childhood experience based on the belief system that I had created out of that experience.
Absolutely. And most people do that and don't even realize that they do it. There's a real lack of awareness around a lot of these things. Or people might say, oh, I keep doing that. Like, self-sabotage is a big one for people. And I don't know why I do that. But you're right, 100%. It traces right back. And it may not just be from, like, your dad's dad passing it on to him. It could go back many generations. There are real generational core wounds that are coming up to be healed, and people that have enough awareness are able to do that. And the more that we heal, the more that shows up, the more stuff that's deeper and deeper shows up to be released as well.
Yeah, essentially it ends generational trauma. Because that
Yes.
trauma, was passed on, yeah, likely from my great grandfather to my grandfather. I mean, where did my grandfather learn that, right? So somewhere along the line, somebody feared some unknown fear and thought they should protect everything around them and embedded that into children who practice that behavior, like you say, and then they just pass it on and pass it on. And the reason it's passed on is because we don't communicate about where it comes from or become aware enough to understand that this was taught to us and it does not align with who we are, which is what I did. I started looking at that like this isn't who I am. Like, and I think that that's, something that we can all do within our lives to end generational trauma is to be that individual that rises above it, and it's so liberating when you do that. I mean, it's not easy to face difficult things, of course. I mean, this is why we hide from uncomfortable
Yeah.
feelings, but at the same time, when you do stand up and you like end something that you've seen in the lineage of your family that never served anyone, it's like not only are you healing that past trauma, but you're healing it in the moment with yourself. And if you have children, you now will not teach those behaviors to them. Rather, you'll teach them the education that you learned from that behavior being implemented into you. So it's actually, it's so much power in it.
Absolutely. And that is like, I'm so proud of you for that, like to recognize that as well, to be able to trace it back and to be able to heal it. Because I believe at this time on the planet, that's what many of us are doing. Like these things have been suppressed and suppressed for generations. And now a lot of people are choosing to feel that pain to end that generational trauma. And when they do, it can be mistaken as people just having mental health issues and that there's something wrong with them. But what they're doing is they're the warriors that are actually choosing to feel all of that for all those generations that suppressed it so that it can end once and for all. And like you said, not pass it on through the lineage anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. The warrior spirit is something I talk a lot about. Essentially, is that the spirit is stronger than the vessel. The vessel will go through an immense amount of pain and be able to carry itself and walk itself through that because of the spirit within. It's strong enough to get through it, find the education within it, and then share it with others, like redistribute it. That to me is what a warrior spirit stands for. And I believe all of us have the ability to tap into this. It's just where we put our attention and our belief systems. And that's kind of what happened with me when I walked away from my drug addiction and everything like that. It's just I stopped giving away my power and decided that I would believe in myself. Like even if I was homeless and I just got out of jail, it didn't matter. I made a choice. I was like, you know what? Whatever happened yesterday and for the last 23 years, I'm like, hey, that took place. Like, I'm not going to be that person today. I don't feel like that person anymore. I feel like I can love myself. I feel like I can understand what love for myself means. And I'm okay to talk about that. And I can see how avoiding difficult, uncomfortable feelings from experiences that were difficult has got me nowhere. It just turned me into a drug addict and
Yes.
someone that I didn't want to be, somebody that I didn't like. So I looked at areas that I was avoiding for so many years as being a teacher. I was like, okay, show me what I'm too afraid to feel and understand about myself, because the past we can't change. It doesn't define us, but certainly it's trying to teach us something. So I just looked for those areas for education to apply in my present moment.
That's so wonderful. Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank
And
you.
I think we're all on a journey to do that. Like it's a never-ending journey of learning and growth, and but it, like, when you talk about your story, it really feels to me like you were always destined to do that. Like that you had, that difficult upbringing and went that way, and then you just had that realization, that epiphany, and you're like, this is not who I want to be, not what I want to do. And that's what makes it so powerful for you to be able to lead other people to do the same thing, to take back.
Yeah, I look at that drug addiction and I'm like, good Lord, I was meant to go through all that. Like, and that's the thing that really like shakes me up a little bit. It's like, wow, this was predetermined. Like all of this soul contracts, this understanding of what we're going to do before we come back is like, it's so real. And I look at my drug addiction now and I'm so grateful for so much of it. It was very difficult, but yeah, to be an example of how others can lead their own life, because I don't want anyone to follow me or anything that I'm doing. We don't need followers these days. We need leaders. And that's what I just looked at my whole story as being. It was like, okay, I can do something different from a place where society says that 0.01% of people come out of it. But it's like, okay, that's a beautiful place to be, because if it was that difficult and we can show that it can be done, then, you know, what are you walking out of? You know, maybe you're not walking out of a 23-year drug addiction homeless. Maybe you're walking away from a marriage that never served you, or maybe you're walking away from a job, or maybe you're just walking away from the toxic people that you've surrounded yourself with for over half your life that you call friends, and you're going to accept yourself. And I think that that's, like you said, like, we all are on a journey, and our journeys are as equally difficult as everyone else's, because their difficulties lie within us. So, you know, a woman who's now divorced and a single mother and trying to figure out her life, the feelings resulted from those choices are the same as the choices I was making in my drug addiction. And I think that that's really cool when we can see the association within our experiences alchemizing our emotions to be, or our difficult experiences to be, assets for us.
Definitely. And it goes in stages, because there's so much when we're younger that we can't really see. And then as we get older and older, then we're more able to realize what we're doing, I guess. And that's not the same for everyone, because, you know, some people can see from an early age. But for example, I went through a lot of trauma as a child myself, and I was an empath, and I always felt things very deeply. And there's still things that I am healing and will probably still be healing for the next 20 years. But compared to what I was like 20 years ago or 10 years ago or even 5 years ago, I'm still a completely different person and much more comfortable in my own skin. I have a lot more self-love, and it just takes practice and connection really to create those, and getting the help that you need to move forward, as well as backing yourself.
And the reason I do these podcasts, another big part of it is to bring on real people, to show, you know, other people, like, look, we all have a story, you know, and you know, we're all just trying to figure it out and learn from each other, and learn from how we move through difficult experiences, how we move through difficult emotions, and learn about, you know, people beyond the label, more for the human experience, because that's what this is all about. Society throws labels all over things, and then we create an idea surrounding a label that we know nothing about. But because we've heard of the label, we'll judge that based on that. But this podcast, you know, I'm so grateful that you said you had a lot of trauma in your life as well, because, I mean, just like trauma, when we think about trauma, like, a lot of people think physical and sexual abuse, but it's like neglect, abandonment, you know, not being seen and not being heard, not being loved because your parents were never taught love and they just didn't know how to love you. You know, that's huge, because as a child, you are love. And then you come into the world, and then you see adults, or this older version of a human that's been completely distorted around an idea of love based on their experiences, and then they begin to put that into you. I mean, that's, you know, traumatic in its purest form.
Definitely. And that's 100% what happens. We come in, you know, just a full ball of love, light, and abundance, because that's what we truly are. And then society gets its hands on us, and you know, you can't do this and you shouldn't do that and don't say that. And definitely all those codes are passed down from our parents' traumas or our grandparents' traumas. You're 100% right. So it's really liberating and great in this day and age, I believe, because there's so much more freedom around all of this, and there's so many people that are out there trying to help everyone else lift this and have the happiest life. Because at the end of the day, if you asked everyone what they want, I think most people would say, I want to be happy.
Absolutely. And you know, like, happiness, like, if they even define happiness, like, I ask people that, like, what does happiness mean to you? And they don't even know. They don't even ask the question. It's like they're so caught up on autopilot and in this loop of being busy and having a chaotic life that there's no time for stillness. People pleasing is the thing that they practice. It's like, of course you don't know what happiness is. You're giving away all of your energy to, people, places, and things that do not serve your highest purpose, right? Because your highest purpose is your self-love. And I often tell people, like, that's okay. That's okay if you're in that space. But to be aware of that space and then want to do something with it, that's everything. So how did you get into this, to where you are today? I mean, it's simple. I think it's cool to hear the journey a little bit.
Sure. So I was always into crystals from a young age, and I always thought they were really beautiful. And then I went and just worked, a normal job, and I always had this feeling that, I'm meant to be doing something spiritual. So I went and got my Reiki masters, probably late 20s, early 30s, just did some massages for friends and family, just taught myself a bit about oils and got a massage table, and then just still continued on in the business world doing the same old thing. And then my dad got really sick. So he was diagnosed really suddenly with stage 4 cancer. And it was really, really daunting because, you always, as a little girl, you always have, even though you're an adult, you're still daddy's little girl. And it really knocked me. It was really scary. And then he went away for treatment, and I saw this advertisement saying med beds, and I'm like, I know I've used med beds, like I know, like, because I do have some past life memories. And as soon as I saw it, I just joined up and did the course, and then just started practicing with people, and before I started, doing paid healings. And then I had been following a lady called Gabby Kowalski, who's in Melbourne, for maybe 6 or 7 years, always thinking, I'll work with her one day, I'll work with her one day. And then I just signed up, and now I'll be like a quantum practitioner by the end of this month. And the most exciting thing is it's not just that stuff that I've talked to you about, but it can be coding and decoding, because we are coded with certain things. So say, for example, a lady reached out to me and said, my dogs are really unhappy. Can you work on them? And I've worked on them as well. So we can work on animals as well as people, because everything is energy, expanding the heart consciousness, things like that. But that's originally how I got into it. It took something really, really big and really scary for me to go, you know what? No more stuffing around, Donna. It's time to do what you're meant to do.
Yeah, wow, eh? I love that. You took a chance on yourself, and you saw, a difficult experience in order to. It's funny though, even your father's death, it was beneficial for you to push you out of your comfort zone, as uncomfortable and hard as it was.
Well, you know what the most thing is? He didn't actually die, Justin. So we thought that he was going to, but the doctors told him he would never go into remission, and he's just gone into remission about 6 or 8 weeks ago.
So yeah, the med bed thing is definitely something I wanted to speak to you about, because this is otherworldly. This is incredible. It is. It is. It's absolutely incredible. But then I think of your father, and I'm like, okay, like, she can access med beds. So why don't you explain to people a little more about the med beds, what this is about?
Sure. So basically what this is I did the course through Awakening Education a couple of years ago, or might have been the beginning of last year. And this lady just started getting contacted by Palladians. So she wasn't awake at this time, and this was the beginning of her awakening in 2017. Her name is Roxy. And they just kept visiting her, and she was thinking, oh my God, I'm going crazy. What's going on? Like,
Yeah.
And then it was obviously her soul family reaching out to her to say, hey, you have a special mission on earth, and this is what you need to do. You need to teach people how to do this. So basically, I just, like, I can do it with anyone, anywhere in the world, online, and we just connect like we are today. And the person just lays in their bed at home, or, somewhere where they're comfortable at home. And literally my soul goes and picks their soul up. And then we take them off to a beautiful journey up to a Palladian ship, and we go into the med bedroom, and there's different technologies in there, and I'll explain to them, what technologies are there. And then I have my spiritual team that work with me. And then for people that do a lot of meditation or are very in tune, they sometimes can see the colors of the medbed scanning. as it goes across. And sometimes they will feel that they're being worked on because our physical, mental, and emotional and spiritual body are all interconnected. So even though your physical body is here, I might say, oh, somebody's standing to the left of you, or they're working on your knee or whatever it is, and they'll go, oh yeah, I can feel that. They can feel that little tingling. And basically, yes, that can help remove dense emotions and repair things like that. But my team will just instinctively know what needs to be worked on. And then basically I just tell you what is happening throughout that process. And for people that are ready, it can also help them integrate key codes and things like that, or they'll go into the field to be integrated when that person is ready. Like, I hope that makes sense, but not everyone. But codes essentially are information. So everything is information. Even information comes in through the light, from the sun. And, we all come to Earth with certain codes. We get codes from our parents. We get codes from our friends. So it's all information, basically.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And when you start looking into this, I mean, the first thing is energy and vibrations and frequencies. And once you see that everything is energy and vibrations and frequencies, you see that information is coming in through all aspects of light. And that is how we get downloads or synchronicities or whatever it may be, or recalibration of the human physical body. I mean, it comes through the delivery of the sunlight. I mean, that's a huge activation for our third eye, and just your overall health and well-being. Well, your wellness requires sunlight because of the information that penetrates that. So that's not anything that's not anything that anyone can't digest, I don't think, because when we do talk about this stuff, like, school makes employees. So the education system that we all are attuned to believe in, as creating scientists and researchers and facts, is all there to be controlled and compartmentalizing information. So when you start to step into these fields of quantum healing and you start surrounding yourself with communities like you, I mean, you certainly start learning new methods and new ways of healing. And I think at this point, we've got enough history with pharmaceuticals for people to say, okay, is this really working? Like, am I just masking a symptom for a root core issue that'll never be cured because I'm on this medication for life and I feel like crap? And I think that people's awareness is there, where we're at that point in time for that. I mean, look at chemo meds, 97% failure rate. 97%, yet it's the number one thing pushed with cancer. So that in itself is just enough to be like, hey, what are we doing here? This is about money. This is not about wellness. This is about money. So when we do quantum healing sessions, everything in the quantum field is about results. And I've learned that because the results speak the loudest. And this is why these fields are quieted the most. They're silenced because of what they do produce. Now, for myself, like the Palladians as well, I wanted to kind of bring an awareness to this for people. Palladians are entities, should I say?
Well, really, the way I look at it is they're like our brothers and sisters. Like, many of us on the planet today have actually spent lifetimes out in the stars. Like, if you believe that we've lived thousands and thousands and thousands of lives, some of us may have come to Earth and lived many, many lives on Earth. But some of us have actually, spent time out in other dimensions as part of other star races, and some of us not just one star race, because at the end of the day, everything is one. We are all one. So the way I tend to look at the world is we are source energy, like that original energy or intelligence that existed, getting to know himself. So, we're incarnating and reincarnating and we're having all of these experiences. But our Palladians are a beautiful, benevolent star race, and there are many other benevolent star races. There's the Lyrans and the Syrians and the Andromedans, and some of us may, feel closer to some than the others. Some of us might just think, oh, that sounds really weird. But many of us have come here from from other races for sure to help and assist on the planet and for our growth, like our soul's learning as well.
Well, I love what you said. It's a star race, and when I think of a star race or beings from another planet, we have to think of an evolved consciousness, and that consciousness evolved as a collective. So those beings were able to elevate beyond the plane of three-dimensional reality, and that's what they're capable of, and that's why they have much higher understandings of technology and medicine and medication and healing methods, is because they evolved as a race. And I believe this is what mankind is looking to do itself. Yet here there's a heavy manipulation and an indoctrination for us to be divided and to judge ourselves and to judge others. Because if all of the pieces of the source of Prime Creator come back together, the evolution that takes place with love it's universal. It changes everything. So
Definitely.
like Andromedans, Palladians, like Syrians, we become one of them. We become elevated to that degree. And there's a lot of people on this planet that are so caught within fear and an inability to accept change within their own life, never mind changing the world, just accept change within your own life, that evolutionary state that is taking place right now, whether people like it or not, it's happening, is taking a little longer. So the benefits from these healing methods and these conversations, and just allowing yourself to learn a little bit more about something you don't know. And it's the things that we all talk about is about love. Like everything is surrounding love.
Yeah, love transmutes everything. And you're 100% right. Like a lot of these races are, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th dimensional and beyond. And they want us to succeed. They're actually helping us in the background to hold more love, to remember who we are, all of that. That's exactly what's happening on a bigger scale. And I believe that there will be definitely like contact with them very soon.
If it's not already taking place. I mean, like, people are shifting. They're waking up. I mean, even myself, I surrendered my life to love in a jail cell because I was reading a book where a guy did that. I woke up the next day a different human. Like, of course, I walked away from the 23-year drug addiction, but I didn't do it alone. Like, I mean, it just, something inside of me opened up. And whatever that was, well, I know what it was. It was love. It was love. I never had a language for it. I mean, our language of love, or our love language these days, is often dictated by the families that we're born into and the witness of their relationship, our parents, or our family members that we witness and how they treat each other. And then this is our idea of love. We carry this because where else are we learning it? We're so segregated and divided. And certainly ask anyone about self-love and self-care, they're confused. Not anyone, but most people are confused about self-love and self-care. So
definitely,
this is when I did speak those words and I became a student of love, because I still am today. This is all I know, is the pursuit of love and how to understand it. But this is just within myself. It just came with so much. Oh, it was so much lighter, because I life was still not easy. I mean, good Lord, like it's difficult for everyone. But at the same time, the difficult aspects are they're a part of the beauty as well. Because I know when things are hard, I'm learning even more. So, and if I'm in a difficult situation with another human that's really struggling, I'm okay to step into that situation because I've got so much love within me, and I practice my discipline of being balanced, that I can share that, with my brother and sister, and then help them through that difficult experience. And it's like, it's far beyond the value of money at that point. It's a shared connection of authenticity and truth. And for me, that's what I've come to understand love at its core being.
Definitely. And really, when they say that everything is inside of us, that's exactly right. It's just we've always been searching outside, and that's why I love what I do so much, is because I love seeing people have joy and being happy. But going back to the med beds as well, the other thing I wanted to add, which is probably pertinent, is that every med bed experience is completely different. None of them are anything the same. And that person, that individual, will get exactly what they were ready for at that time. So say, for example, if it's somebody that's on a real spiritual path, they might have parts of their light body built or different things like that. Or we might even go on a beautiful shamanic journey. For other people, it might just be, look, we really need to clear your heart chakra and you're overthinking, so we need to work on your brain and, you know, those neural pathways and things like that. But it is a very beautiful experience. And if someone would have told me 5 years ago that I was going to be doing this, I would have said, yep, okay.
I love how humble you are about it. Like that's so cool. That even you're like, wow, I'm doing this. Like this is what I'm doing. And
Yeah.
even for myself, 5 years ago when I was on the street with a needle, you'd have told me that I'd be having conversations and stepping up on stages and things like that. I would have been like, get out of here. Like,
Yeah,
what planet are you
absolutely.
from? But yeah, it's real. So I'm curious though, when people with severe, let's say cancers or tumors or things like this, I'm sure they're going to listen to this podcast and be absolutely intrigued by a med bed that possibly may have their best interests at hand outside of a healthcare system. How long, if someone were to go on a journey with you up to these med beds in the comfort of their own home, how long does an integration process usually take before we see results within the emotional body?
Sure. So the session itself, it generally takes somewhere between 2 to 3 hours. And I just let the session run as long as it needs to for that individual. The integration process takes a few weeks to happen. Probably one of the best examples I have is a girlfriend, but I'd use it as a support. Like, I wouldn't just rely on that and nothing else, because, I know that we're probably not too keen on the pharmaceutical world, but everything has its place. And I
Sure.
guess I would use it as a support mechanism for all those things. So I have a girlfriend who was diagnosed with liver cancer, for example, last June. They gave her 3 months to live. Now, immediately, she knew a fair bit about, looking after her body and things like that. She automatically changed her diet. She started having healing sessions with me. She did many other things to assist herself, because she also does Reiki and different healing as well as that, but she used to be a nurse. And she now has brought that back from a stage 4 to a stage 1.
Wow.
So it's definitely possible for people to do that, but I'd be looking at a wide range of things, like, what do you eat?
Yeah.
What do you think? What do you watch? It's that whole thing, definitely.
Absolutely. Like, how much water do you drink? What's your sleep system like? What were your emotional traumas as a child? Let's try and surface some of that. I got to know what your blocks are going to be. Do you believe in yourself? Can you believe in yourself? All of these
Yes.
are extreme factors within the evolution of oneself, because essentially, you're taking people up there so they can be healed, but they must heal themselves through the process as well, because
Yeah.
there's no magic. We're not just taking something away and boom, you're good to go. You don't have to do any work. No, it doesn't work like that.
No.
So yeah, that's the difficult part for people, is that there will be work on their part. But I think that if you're committed to go up in a med bed and really explore these options, you'd be willing to take a look at the difficult, uncomfortable parts of your life and
Definitely.
process them,
And that sort of stuff comes up. And if you go back to Louise Hay, bless her beautiful soul, she's wrote many books, and she actually wrote a book about all different illnesses and diseases in the body and the root cause. And I do remember that for cancer, it's generally deep resentment that's held there for a period of time. So even knowing that, apart from the med bed, I could do some of the quantum therapy on people, and we could go through and we could do a timeline healing for that resentment, and we could lift that out of the body as well, which obviously a person would feel lighter after that, because dense emotions take up a lot of space in our body, and our body is not able to hold as much love and light.
Yeah, absolutely. We remove something to make room for something else. I just did a session with a woman. Her name's Anita Govinder, and we just did one 2 weeks ago. And I've done a couple with podcast guests. Usually, that's what we'll do, and then we'll come on here and we'll talk about it. And I just did one a couple weeks ago, and I'm pretty disciplined within my practice. That certainly doesn't mean I have it all figured out, because shit, man, my life can be, you know what I mean? Like 23 years of practicing poor behaviors, there's a lot of spaces inside of us that we got to go through these doors. But I'm pretty good at navigating myself into these areas and using the tools of love. But we did one a couple weeks ago, and here, I even said to her, I said, I don't know, well, let's explore this, because I'm curious to see what could come up. I'm pretty disciplined. And here, like my brother, I had this area with my brother, and he had built a wall up around it, and it's certainly, I think of my brother. My brother's not well. He's in addiction as well. And that's it. It's tough, because I let him into it, and then I got out. I snapped out of it. And
Right.
he's still in, and his mental health is so bad. Like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
he's such a great guy, but he's so angry and frustrated that it's distorted his being, as addiction does. I mean, we end up self-sabotaging to the point that we become total assholes. It's just the way it is.
Yeah, and it's also the energy of what you're putting into your body, because, we've got lower realms, middle realms, and upper realms, and you're putting something lower realm into your physical body, so therefore it's going to impact all of that as well.
Right, exactly. And so I carried some of that, like you say, guilt. It was guilt. Of course,
Yeah.
I felt guilty for what I had done, and I don't think I was accountable for my actions, because I never spoke my truth to him to apologize. Like, hey man, I treat you like shit when you were younger, but I was confused about my own friggin' journey. So you just got caught up in that frustration. I took it out on you. You were the little guy, but dang, that screwed you up, And here I was able to go into this and see all of this,
Wow.
my brother's there, like the visual version of him, which is basically a reflection of myself, that allows me permission to heal that area of myself and transmute that experience into something beautiful. It was insane. Every session I do is just, it's life-changing, because when you heal the subconscious experience and you do you transmute that dense energy that's just swirling around inside of you, attacking your organs, attacking your body, attacking your mental, attacking your soul, essentially, and you process that. It is the most incredible thing ever, and it stays with you. So like it's not something you got to worry about coming back, because you've and like you say, you've made room inside of you. You can feel it. You're lighter. You can move a little more. You're like, oh my gosh, like what a thing to be stored inside of me, and I had no idea it was there.
Totally. Yeah, 100%. Definitely. And I love hearing you talk about it as well. Like, I don't know, it's just so beautiful to meet with somebody like you that's been through a journey like that and has turned that into, helping bring more light and love to the planet, because I honestly feel that many of us on the planet are awake to what is happening and realize that, there have been forces in play that have been much more masculine and haven't had our best interests at heart. So this is how we do it. We lead through the heart. This is how we change all of that, is we lift the stuff in ourselves that is not, in our highest good or in our best interest. We expand our heart spaces. We hold more love and light. And the more of that we bring onto the planet, then those other things can't possibly exist. So, we move out of the 3D and into the 4 and 5th. And I mean, Gaia herself is already in 5th.
Yeah.
But that's exactly what we all need to do. So anyone that's out there listening thinking, I'm not happy with my life, I don't want to continue this, then the more inner work that we do and the more help that we get to do that, then the more we enable like all of the beauty of life to come through, and for those control mechanisms just to continue crumbling.
Absolutely. And like you said, living from a male dominated or a dense masculine energy just means a place of power and greed and control has been at the forefront of how we have been controlled for quite some time. And the feminine energy that's coming in is just an emotional understanding of vulnerability. And for men that listen to this, they have an idea of what it means to talk about emotions from a very feminine perspective, to think like that's for women or something like that. But actually, talking about emotions makes you stronger. Like it has you tap into both sides of who you are so you can become balanced. Because if you don't talk about how you feel, you're storing that energy in areas of yourself, which will weigh you down. No matter how many weights you lift, it won't matter, because the inner strength that comes from the processing of these emotions and the ability to go into difficult areas far surpasses that of lifting weights. It's relative, definitely, to be working on your physical body, absolutely, but the inner work that goes into it as well is where we can use the tool of feminine energy to grow, as well as females. I mean, my wife, I'm so grateful for her. I found a reflection of myself that is not myself, but she is all the things that I've never known. Like I never knew honesty. I never knew loyalty. I never knew, mutual respect. I never knew communication. I never knew talking about feelings and like, but like from a very like from a position of education. So she's all these things, and she certainly has her own things going on in her life. I mean, we're all on our own journey, but these qualities she shows up with, so like with ease, because it's who she is. She integrated loyalty and all of these things into her being at a very young age. Now I'm here with this distorted ideology of what those mean, but I have an example in front of me of what they mean. So now
Yeah.
I'm able to see that and adopt those into my own life. And it's such a beautiful thing to be able to be around that kind of energy and really, really see how, we're complementing each other. Just like in Egypt, when we talk about higher states of consciousness, which the Egyptian times was all about. I mean, but they
Yep.
they were one with the man, the mask. A man didn't lead unless he had a strong woman beside him, and you didn't have to be a king or a pharaoh to be a leader. You led from that perspective, and it was because of the balance of the masculine and feminine.
100%. And you have been able to integrate those codes from your wife because they were the codes that she was carrying, the stuff that she had embodied from her lifetime, which is really beautiful. And yes, it's all about integrating the feminine and the masculine. And honestly, there have been many times in my lifetime where I have been quite grateful to have chosen to be a female in this lifetime, because it can be very difficult to be a male when you're told, boys don't cry and toughen up and take a cup of cement. I've watched the way men talk to each other, and even though I know they're only mucking around,
Yeah.
it's hard for them to be able to open up and show their emotions and show that vulnerability. But at the end of the day, we're all human beings. We all feel the same things. And I really don't understand why there's been such a taboo around those things. And that's what men need, is someone that they can, be them full selves with. And that's why finding, a wonderful woman to share your life with that understands just brings so much beauty into your world as well.
Absolutely. I think from like my work with men, where I see them coming from is it's a place of weakness. So they certainly do not want to have any sign of weakness where people will judge them for not being this idea of strength. But I'm so grateful for like just who I am, because I am just who I am. So I very
Yeah.
quickly am able to offer them another perspective of how to view their situation, and I lead by example. So I'll just talk about all the things I'm feeling and show them the results that's had for me in my life, and immediately, just like you, people come up to me and tell me all kinds of like everything, and it's like because they feel
Yeah.
comfortable in the space and they've heard this new way of talking about it, and it's like, yeah, you don't have to feel weak about it. It's going to make you stronger.
Definitely. And that's the other beautiful thing about self-love, is when we're able to generate enough self-love We no longer worry about the judgment. We're not worried about what other people think of us because we've taken our full power back and we just know who we are and we're happy to stand in that. It's not to say that we'll never have doubt or never experience fear or anything like that, but you're quite comfortable just being yourself.
Yeah, just the cultivation of love in itself, like just from nature, like you were saying, like Gaia is already fifth density, or Mother Nature for other people that want to hear it another way. Absolutely, this is where I find so much of my rejuvenation. I'm very fortunate to live in the mountains of Western Canada right now. I am moving back to the city in a couple weeks, but I've been out of the city for 8 months to recalibrate myself, and my evolution from these last 8-9 months. Man, I've never been at a higher state, and I owe a great debt of gratitude towards Gaia, or Mother Earth, for holding, some confused energy that I was trying to understand. I just sometimes go up in the mountain and I'll just sit there and I just ask. I just say, like, earth spirit, air spirit, water spirit, fire spirit, can you hold this dense energy that does not serve me, because I'm struggling to get it out of me? So do you mind? And I don't have shoes on, and I'll put my hands flat on the ground and I just sit with it. And that's the beautiful exchange of the natural current of energy that is Gaia, or Mother Earth, because there's definitely a natural flow of energy that comes through there. It's to help us process, because it's always been that way. But that's why the cities are so attractive, or the illusion of what's attractive for most people to come there is because it distorts you from that natural ability to process energy that you don't know what to do with.
Definitely. And I've never been a city girl. I've grown up in the country my whole life, and I have to be around the trees and the stars. Like, I could go to the city and after 3 days, I'm like, yes, I love your shopping. You've got good nightlife, but you can shove your 50 million tons of concrete right where it fits. Like, get me out of here. Like, I just get so anxious.
Yeah. That's funny. I grew up a country boy too. So, like, I grew up in a town of 1,500, and then my addiction would navigate me to cities just for the ease of things, and I would flow through there, and it was beneficial for me to understand it. But that was the only thing I was understanding, was that I need to be very aware of what its function is, because the comforts allow individuals to become complacent within their discomfort. And that, to me, is what I've witnessed the city serving a very powerful function surrounding humans and their inability to make change. It's because you don't need to. Everything is right there for you. So don't worry about anything. Just stay here, stay divided, and we'll entertain you.
I love that. And I love that you go, like, because you're right, that's what Earth is there for. And if we look at our ancient cultures, they probably spent 85% of the time with no shoes on, fully connected to Earth. Have a look today. Look at the anxiety rates. Look at the depression rates. We're probably lucky if the average person spends 1 or 2%. And the moment that we touch the ground, electrons flow up all around us. And, it is very healing. It's one of the most healing things we can do, is just connect with nature.
Yeah, I like that you brought the Indigenous into that, because this is where I look to a lot of my education for, is Indigenous practices. And what how they cultivated an understanding of their surroundings, and how they built a relationship with it. Because I feel like we can all do that. And, if we look at the practices of the Indigenous, they will be the leaders of the new earth in the very, very near future. So
definitely,
if we can see the value in how these people were living, and begin to see them as our brothers and sisters, because the Indigenous are affected all over the world by the system, because they do not fit as cogs in the wheel of the machine to generate profit. Rather, they have knowledge surrounding a sustainable way of living that does not come from, fast food institutions, or big box stores, or whatever it may be. They're fully capable of living off of the land. So we really need to appreciate these individuals, and begin speaking and communicating with them, and seeing them as equals, and not as an idea that's been planted into our mind that they're
Oh.
less, and that they actually have no understanding of anything, because they actually are far more advanced than we are.
Oh, definitely. Like if we had a food shortage, we would be relying on, the native Hopi Indians and cultures like that know how to do all of that sort of stuff, to grow food in really desolate situations and things like that to help. And the sacredness of being connected to the earth and the gratitude and the not taking for granted. I mean, that's us moving out of our head and into our heart. And that's what the Indigenous cultures offer. They offer, this is where they started, this is what happened in the in-between, and now we're moving exactly back to that, because that's what we need. We need to live from our heart.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that you put it that way. And for me myself, like my work, well, going back to the city, one of the main reasons I'm going back there is to get heavily involved with the generational trauma within the Indigenous here in Canada. And I've got a plan. I have a plan for a new earth beginning, because I don't know what to do. So like, I'm not going to wait for someone to show me the new earth. It's like, come on, if we sit around and wait, like, look, we've been waiting for change for the last 200 years or 2000 years, never mind. And look at where we are today. It's like, we have to really be the change by taking action in our life, and living from a place of love, and understanding that equality comes first before anything. And the second thing is education, to learn from each other. Our experiences are the teachers, not institutions, and sustainability. We got to work in relationship with this beautiful planet so that we can grow within its density, so that we can become a part of it. Much like, for a visualization, what's the name of that movie? Oh gosh, I'm so bad with these kind of things. With the blue people?
Avatar?
Thank you, Avatar. Yes. Because that's real. Like that's just a version of what it looks like, but it's very real. And people get so touched and moved by this movie. It's like, well, let's do it. Like, what are you waiting for? Like, you don't have to be afraid of this. Like, we are fully capable of doing this. You don't need to wait for the establishment or organizations that don't have our best interest to do this, because good Lord, imagine what that looks like. You get a little blue pill every morning. You know what I mean? Like, no, thank you.
Yeah.
And also, I wanted to touch on the pharmaceutical thing, because you are right. Throughout my drug addiction, I managed to pick up Hep C, and they gave me like this power pack of pills, and it cured it. Like, I don't have it, and I've been like for screenings for multiple times. It's gone. So I was like, okay, I can't really take away from that. And as a child, I had cold sores. These daunting little things that seem to surface with stress and anxiety, and other factors as well, but many people get them for stress and anxiety. And they would always give me this friggin' cream that would make everything worse, and it would just put it all over my face, and my childhood was so difficult with these friggin' things. And then I learned of this little magic blue pill, and you take this little magic blue pill and the friggin' cold sores go away. And I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't had a cold sore in like a year or something like that, because this little pill, it didn't take it away, but it worked with, can't think of the name of what they call it, but anyways, whatever that is, it suppresses that. Not suppresses it, but it almost communicates with that activation of them coming into fruition, and it eliminates them. So it was very beneficial. So I can't take away from all this synthetic little pill thing they give us, because of course, but like for the most part, I mean, we certainly should be questioning what we're putting in our body. But
definitely. And I mean, look, all of that comes from plants in the first place. It all comes from nature, and then all this extra stuff's added to it because you can't patent a plant.
Right. And that's where the Indigenous and the First Nations come back into this conversation, is because they understand the herbs and the flowers and the recipes that we need for this beautiful medicine from Mother Earth. And that'll be coming back very, very soon. So I appreciate you so much for your time today, and your wisdom, and your journey, and for what you're doing for humans. I just really appreciate you.
I really appreciate you too. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to be here.
So how do people find you? Because I'm sure this is going to incite some minds to be thinking things creatively.
Sure. So I've got a website. It's just simply donnamulvany.com, and I can send that to you so that you can put it in the link with this if you like.
Yeah.
And then it's just Donna Mulvany 8881 on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn as well. But I don't know exactly what that, I'd have to look that up.
That's okay. You're like me with social media. At the end of when I do podcasts by myself, I try and like talk about my social media links, and I'm like struggling to even remember what the heck
Remember?
they are. Oh gosh, it's like there's so many of them, and they're so mundane. But the friggin' world, man, this is how they're taking in information, and I'm kind of grateful because we can do this podcast today based off of these technologies, so we can spread a message. But to use them is just hard. I mean, for me. Anyway.
Yeah, it's hard to remember what they are with all the little numbers at the end.
I will put all of your information in the description below, and I'd like to ask you as well, if we can do, I would like to experience this med bed. If you
Sure.
and I can do this together, and because I'm so curious, and I want to do a podcast on it so bad, because I think it'll give people something to really think about. Like, I mean, just the experience in itself, to be able to talk about it. I don't know.
Absolutely. And there's two things that I do, and they're very different. So I'm happy for you to experience both so that you can see what both of them feel like, if you like.
Cool. Let's do that. Let's set that up. And then you and I'll
Wonderful.
come back on and we'll talk about that.
Sounds good.
Sweet. Oh, I love it. Okay. I'm so grateful for you today. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your message. And I appreciate you.
Thank you so much. And thank you for everything that you do for the planet as well. And been a pleasure, Justin.